1500s, obviously. And things get a lot more complicated here by the 15th century. So we have been talking about the Middle Ages. I'm on page 12. There's probably more than one page 12, but it's the one with that guy. Okay. We're just going to allude just quickly here to the fall of Constantinople. We'll kind of skip the rest of it. Because it's Eastern Europe, and it's kind of out of our wheelhouse. But we're going to be looking a little bit here at the Renaissance, because these time periods, like the Middle Ages, I mean, we've already said way back on Monday, we have to subdivide it into 3 eras. We're in the late Middle Ages, obviously. But in the late Middle Ages, when we say the Renaissance, well, that's overlapping this time period. It doesn't fit exactly in it, but it overlaps it. The Reformation we're going to get to before we finish today. That in part overlaps this time period. That's coming in pretty late. You can actually make a clearer break between the end of the Middle Ages and the Reformation than you can the end of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The Renaissance and the Middle Ages they're kind of gangy. They kind of interconnect. Okay. Let's kill off. Not kill off. Let's end the Byzantine Empire as we know it. We see this on page 12. We've alluded to it already. Constantinople will fall in 1453, so here in the 1400s. The next 50 years are terribly exciting in European history. There's just a lot of stuff. It's a rich, frothy time period. Just a lot going on. Constantinople, of course, falls to Muslims. Muhammad II will come in with a gigantic army, a huge force. There's no way the folks in Constantinople can deal with this. By the way, by this time, the Byzantine Empire has shrunk over the centuries down to something very, very small. There's not much left. And Constantinople has always been the center, but Constantinople is almost all of it there is left. There's just not a lot left. There's a few other trading cities here, Byzantine trading cities that are connected to it, all of that. But there's just not a lot left to knock off. This is a big pin to knock down, but still. It has been losing ground for quite a while. The siege went on for almost 2 months. We have this trace of the other day, gigantic siege cannon built by Europeans, by the way, who had tried to hire themselves out to Constantinople, and they were told no, so they went to the other side, and I signed on with those guys. We're talking about big, huge cannons that will lob 1,000-pound and 2,000-pound and ton cannonballs, gigantic cannonballs, carved out of granite and all kinds of stuff, that they will lob against the walls of this city. The walls, and Terry showed you a picture of that the other day, the walls are multi-layers, multi-levels, they look impregnable, but when you start blasting, and at the time they were constructed, they work. You don't have this kind of artillery. Now you do. And of course, part of the problem here on the other side, the Byzantine side, is they cannot use artillery on their walls. They're 1,000 years old. If they use artillery on those walls, they probably just knock the walls down themselves. So they're extremely vulnerable in this attack. Just shot after shot after shot. And it's a valiant holdout. These guys in the city will, come nightfall, civilians will come out by the hundreds. They'll try to rebuild parts of the wall, stack the rubble up and things like that, just to keep this thing running. But eventually, enough of the walls are blasted apart that literally Muhammad's army can ride into the city on horseback through the breaches in the walls. There's also access through a sally port that somebody actually left open. So, somebody did a good job. Sally port's just a little door where knights could come out and do their thing and then run back in. And you wouldn't have to open a big, huge gate, in other words. But somebody left that open. Yeah. Wouldn't you hate to be that guy? Yeah. So we picked up a dog in the rest of your life. Hey, did you close the door? I love the same guy that never puts the toilet lid down at home. But anyway. Then it's absolute chaos. The emperor is there. He's on the walls. He's fighting. He, at one point, was last seen running off into the smoke and everything else. And there's some. We don't know exactly what happened to him. the Byzantine Empire. So when the Turks come in, they will just tear up Jack. They will grab up everybody, kill everybody who resists. They'll grab up most everybody else, especially women, strip them, tie them in long chains together. There's just gals, a long line of them. Their wrists tied one to another with silk scarves, with long lines of women led off to slavery. Thousands. They break into the churches. They'll rape nuns. It's just absolute chaos. Muhammad said, "I'll give you, I think it was 3 days. 3 days, and just whatever you can get out of this town, it's yours." And they ripped it up. He finally cut them off. I think he gave them ultimately 2 days. But that's enough. That's enough. He came in at one point to the big church, the highest divided. He came in while they were ripping it up. They came in on horseback, in fact. And he came into the church. He was dazzled by it. He told his men to stop damaging the church. This is obviously a house of God. And very soon after this, thing would be converted into a mosque. There's a story about him in the church that, and I don't know exactly how this works, but it's described as there was a big pillar, and for some reason he thought that I guess there was a symbol on it or something, and by the story, he actually stuck his hand inside the pillar, okay, and then he spun it around so the image would face that way. So it is what it is. But this is going to change, obviously, the history of the eastern part of Europe down to our own time. Constantinople, Istanbul today, is a very cosmopolitan city. It is a very mixed city religiously. It's like Jerusalem, like Paris as well. Very high Muslim population. We all know that there are European nations that have very high Muslim populations. So that's coming out of this area here. But it is going to change, redirect the history of Eastern Europe. One thing that happens, I think, too, you see this in the very last paragraphs on the page, is that with the end of the Byzantine Empire in Eastern Europe, there's something of a power vacuum that's created by this. And one guy that will fill the breach of some of that is going to be Ivan III in what we call Russia. This is really the beginning of Russia coming out of the woodwork, really starting to flex its muscles. It's not there yet, but it's beginning. Ivan III will call himself Tsar. It's just a derivation of Caesar. He will consider himself to be the heir to the Byzantine throne, basically. I think, is he the one, or was it the fourth? Who marries a niece or somebody of the last emperor of the Byzantine Empire, so he makes those kinds of connections. So from that point on, it really is going to be more about Russia in the east. Now, let's look at 15 here. Again, other things are happening in the context of the late Middle Ages. You'll look at the numbers at the bottom of these next couple of pages, and you'll see that we're kind of skipping around in this original material that I wrote. I'm skipping over to another unit here at page 15. We just have to mention the Renaissance. We don't begin to have time to cover it to any extent at all. I know Bob would love for us to. He's been asking me for weeks, are you going to cover the Renaissance? I'm saying, just a little bit, Bob. And so we'll have to satisfy him some other way, maybe. But I want you to see here kind of where we are, kind of backing up a little bit as far as where are we here? Well, the Black Death seems like a long time ago, and other problems that are kind of come and gone. By the time we get into the 14th century, and more so maybe in the next century, we're starting to see people who, maybe things get a little bit better. Black Death is gone. That's kind of a dim memory. There's been some recovery economically. There's been some growth. The church has recovered somewhat from some of these issues. The 100 Years' War has kind of run its course, and kind of what was all that nonsense about? And by the time we get to the further we get through the 1400s, it's not the abrupt change that we see in the 1000s, where it's just the great thaw. But things are getting better, and people perceive they're getting better, and it seems to be a little more hopeful time, and people are getting more optimistic about their world, and things are changing, and there's some really fascinating things happening here and there that people don't know how much on street level we're aware, but certainly folks in power would be aware. Again, the economies of scale are shifting, and we're getting more what we call manufacturing. Textile production is pretty dramatic. Armaments, of course, is going to be big business. Trade routes extending around the planet. We're going to see that in just a second. Connections to other parts of the world. Discovery of other parts of the world. This is a really rich period. Now, part of what we contextualize that in is what is going to be called the Renaissance. Now, we're not going to begin to get into it. We're not going to touch the art, which is kind of a lot of the anchor of this. Of course, the rediscovery of learning and university stuff and just fantastic things happening there. We can't touch it. We just don't have the time. But we start having people use a word, Renaissance or Renaissance, with a lowercase r. We capitalize to make it Arab. But this is about rebirth, reshift, looking to a different kind of future, looking beyond the horizons that have been the horizons in Europe to this point in time. If your world is all about right here, what you know right here, you live a pretty limited world. Remember, most of these folks never went anywhere, they never traveled. They were born, they lived, they died within 50 miles of the same place. But you've got folks who are out there, getting way out there, as we're seeing in just a second, exploring. We've got new technologies, including new ship technologies, some other things coming in that's going to be changing their whole perspective ultimately. This is the beginning of the creation of what we call the modern world. The ancient world, Middle Ages we've been looking at, and then the modern world. As I said back on Monday, it's kind of an awkward term. Because modern, well, our view of modern is different than what we mean here in the historical context of modern. We're getting a long enough period from 1500 that is it still accurate to refer to all that past millennium as modern. It's all the same. So I think somebody's going to come up with something somewhere and say, okay, we need to make a break, and it's here, and let's call it that. And then we have to redefine the Middle Ages completely. I don't know which is the term. What I do want you to see here over in the right-hand column is the end of that first paragraph in the right-hand column. It was to be a world dominated by, we've seen some of this happening in dribs and drabs, by kings and queens ruling over powerful nation states, robust international economies of scale, broader intellectual and moral values and secular ideals. This world of the Middle Ages, we've looked at repeatedly, was very religiously based. Not that they give all that up. They don't. There's now going to be an emphasis on a much broader scale of looking at things from more of a secular vantage point, or more of a relative vantage point. This kind of stuff. Maybe that is our world. Maybe that does make us modern, like these people are modern. Because we've got plenty of folks who think that way. I'm not talking about us, but plenty of folks who think that way. I wish I could say more about the Renaissance. I love the Renaissance. I teach a whole course, a whole semester on the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So what I've given you here is just a skim over the surface of what we used to do. Now, look at page 26. Again, just kind of moving on, seeing some of these sources for change. The printing press. The printing press is going to be one of these inventions in this era that shifts so many things. Part of what we've been looking at here in terms of dark ages and lack of learning and lack of schools and things like that, well, just text, just books, just information, the dissemination of information. How did that even happen? Well, a lot of it didn't. So what we're seeing here is one of these inventions that just changes not just the history of the Middle Ages, but the history of the planet. Now, it's not just happening here. You can look at the fourth paragraph down, and you will see that we have printing press kinds of things taking place in Asia. We have printed works in the Far East as early as the 700s. This is block printing, not little movable type yet. Just someone take a block, they carve out whatever they want to have. You leave whatever you can have. Just leave whatever you want to actually print and hollow out the rest of it. And you ink it up, just block printing. Okay. But you got to do all that by hands. It's the same kind of thing with an etching. The Koreans are going to be the first to create movable type. They did it with a little piece of ceramic, it wasn't metal. Now we're going to be seeing in Europe this guy Johann Gutenberg, who will produce a Bible, which will be printing other things too, that will be using movable type and using the printing press. The one you see here on the page, by the way, is not that accurate. I don't like the illustration that this fellow did. It's a different looking device, but it's very simple. And you've seen enough of these to know, in historical places where you've seen, the guy doing the press, that kind of stuff. So it's a very simple device, using movable type, and one of the first things that Gutenberg's going to take seriously here is mass producing the Bible. Now, when we say that, I think probably our instant response to that is fantastic and great. It's about time. All these folks that didn't have access to Scripture, and now you can mass produce the Bible. Now, it's going to mass produce, but the Gutenberg Bible here doesn't have that many copies made. It is a Herculean effort, though. We're talking about something that will take years to print off. Well, you see the top right here, 150 copies. There's some stories say different numbers, maybe a little bit higher, but not that much higher. And this, again, printing even these copies takes 2 or 3 years to do, so this is not a, run them off the mimeograph kind of process with a photocopier. Some of this stuff's going to be on vellum. Some of it will be on some will be on skin, some will be on regular paper. This is reinventing the wheel. This is the beginning. It's a small frame, of course, but it's the beginning of something huge. Now, I said, our instant response to this is, well, I mean, they're mass-produced Scripture. But there are people who are upset about this. And what they're upset about is, and I think Gutenberg kind of understood to anticipate this. People are upset because, wait. You're using a machine to make Scripture, to print Scripture. You're using, theoretically, we could have a printer who doesn't believe in anything, much less the divinity of Jesus, and he can print Bibles? Now think what they're saying. What they're saying is, wait. These are the guys who print Bibles. We talk about these monks and folks like this. It's the churchmen who make the Bibles. And now you can have some venal guy out to make a buck off of the Scriptures? Whoa. It's a business. You bet it's a business. So you're going to have people who would just say, that's right, it's bad.
It all falls into that theology of you can't have something that was created by man replicate Scripture.
Right.
You can only have man created by God.
Right.
Be the conduit to replicate.
Right. This has to be done by hand. This has to be God's mouth to your ear to your hand. So this is controversial stuff. Gutenberg, in fact, kept it quiet for a while as far as how he was doing this with the device. Of course, the word gets out, obviously, and all that. These all sure look alike. But anyway, this is going to spread. Again, really, this is a fairly accurate depiction of the Gutenberg press, actually. But it's going to spread pretty quickly. Whoop, did I not have another picture? I wish, did I put it later? I hate to go forward and have somebody get me back again. Did I not have it? Thought I had a picture that showed the places where there were presses. Did I leave that out? Can you give me back to where I was? Thank you. Right next time. The presses will spread. You see the numbers here actually on the page. If you look at the latter part of the right-hand column, about 1,500, 250 European towns were home to at least 1,000 printing presses. We will see, look at that, at the end of that next to last paragraph. By the end of the century, 1500, printing presses had produced roughly 9 million copies of stuff. Now, that includes Bibles, but it's all kinds of other things too. Books, secular works, pamphlets, broadsides, tracts, all kinds of things. 9 million pieces of stuff. It's called the incunabula, the early printed work, infant works.
In the year 2000, when we went from one century, or one millennium to the next,
Yeah.
they put together a bunch of like 250-some scholars, and
Yeah.
they were evaluating the top inventions.
Who were the
of
most
past
important, sure?
past 1,000
Yeah.
years, and the printing press was number one.
Yeah, printing press is one of those inventions that makes it timeless. You're talking about what's changed the world, computer, and whatever else. Printing press.
Comment on why they're called presses instead of them like rotary.
Well, you actually do press. You can see this contraption here. This is the press part of it, where you can pull this arm or armature, whatever it is. You can pull that over, and that will, there's a screw here, and that will push this down, and it will push basically the ink onto the onto the non-printed page. It's a pretty simple operation, basically. You can see here where this guy, what he's doing is he has these, not sponge, but something equivalent, that it's been inked, and then he's inking the type, the actual type. And you push that in, put the paper on top, press that down, so it's called a press. Does that make sense? Is that what you want, Bob? Yeah, that's where that term's coming from. Okay, you literally are pressing one onto the other. Initially, by the way, on Gutenberg and his Bible, he started running things through twice. He wanted to use red, highlight this or that, not use this word necessarily. He would run through once on black, and then he would ink parts, and then he would do it again, same page, and then they had red on it too. So if you look at the page over here, I think I'm right. Remember, Gutenberg page. You see an actual Gutenberg page here. And by the way, everything over here that you've been looking at through the week is actual size. This is not just whatever. These are reproductions. These are facsimiles of the original. They are the actual size. And one of the cool things that, I don't know if you've noticed it in this material or not, but when you get over here to these Bibles, as opposed to these pages over here on these manuscripts, the Reformation works here. What's the difference that you see in these compared to these? The size. Why is that? Because what these guys in the Reformation are doing is they're printing Bibles for you, not to be held in some church somewhere. If you look at the big manuscript over in the corner, the Winchester, that's a big page. That's a big book. You're not going to carry that to Sunday school. That's meant to go into a church. You kept in the church. These guys are doing the Reformation. I'm getting ahead of our story here. What these guys are doing is they're printing Bibles for you to own and carry on. Portable. Isn't that cool? That's our Bible. Yeah.
How does reading glasses fit into that? Was reading glasses developed then?
Yeah, now there are glasses then. Most of the Alpic stuff is coming from the Arabs. But yeah, there's going to be glasses in the Middle Ages. There's not a lot of them here and there, but still, they're there. They're grinding lenses. Remember, we've got Galileo doing his thing before the 1500s are over, and that's not grinding lenses to make telescopes. They're grinding, that's what he uses them for.
What's the literacy rate about this time?
Yeah.
I would, at this time, I don't know that we know. But I think obviously the more access to printed material, and of course the advancement in schooling as well, we're going to see a greater level of literacy. But I think ultimately, still the majority of people are not going to be able to read. Look, I don't think I said this early on, but you look at folks in the Dark Ages. Did I say this? I don't think I did. They estimate that the average peasant vocabulary, the number of words you know, you use, the early Middle Ages, is probably fewer than 1,000. We're talking about people with total vocabulary. That doesn't mean anything to you compare to something else. My guess is you're probably functioning with a 30,000 word, 40,000 word vocabulary. That many words, you know the definitions of them. You may not use them every day, but you know what they are. These people are functioning with 600, 700, 800 word vocabulary. Not literate, can't read. That's the only word you need. So anyway, by the way, I think my wife has stepped out. She'll probably have her hand up right now and tell you that it's getting bad for kids. I think in 1950, the average 14-year-old, American 14-year-old's vocabulary ran, was it 40,000 words or so? Now it's about half that. That's good news, isn't it? And how many of those words are about video games? I don't know. All right, let's shift gears here. Like this can have tremendous importance. And I suspect that Terry's going to talk about the printing press when he talks about Luther in just a bit. Let's talk about Columbus a little bit. Actually, I want to talk about some other guys that are doing their thing at the same time as Columbus. I don't want to step all over the same information that Terry presented yesterday or Wednesday. But I'm going to refer to Columbus and say maybe some additional sorts of things. What I want you to see on page 27 here is this age of exploration. Again, we kind of put Columbus at the top of the heap. But there's other guys doing fantastic stuff here in an era where exploration becomes, and it just fans in every direction. Now, one of the things I want to try and answer before I finish this page is, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to go out in the 1400s in a ship of limited seaworthiness and risk your life and limb? Why would you want to do that? What are your incentives? We're going to try and answer here. Fame and fortune is always right there on everything, isn't it? Fame and fortune's there. There's some other stuff I think is also part of the incentive. And part of this is what Terry talked about the other day with Columbus. What's one of the incentives for Columbus to do what Columbus does? Well, some of that, you're gesturing in some way.
Oh, I'm saying spreading.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's about pushing Islam back and regaining Jerusalem and spreading Christianity and those kinds of things. And that's, I think, present here too, by the way. What we're looking at largely on page 27 are the Portuguese, not the Spanish. Remember, Columbus sails for the Spanish. But the Portuguese are doing some pretty cool stuff at the same time. Look, if we had in front of us a map of the world, and you saw this the other day with Terry, prior to Columbus, we would see all kinds of problems with it. There was as much unknown about the planet prior to Columbus and what these guys are going to do here on page 27 as there was none. You would have maps that not only did not show you the New World, the Western Hemisphere, but you would have maps that would not show you the southern 2/3 of Africa. We hadn't been there. Probably other folks had, by the way. The Phoenicians probably sailed around Africa. Time of Solomon. That's what happened in Hiram and Hiram and Phoenician. These 3-year voyages that went around. That was probably going around Africa. Bring back peacocks and baboons and stuff. Oh, yeah. But anyway, in modern times, it hadn't been done. You look at a map, there's nothing south. There's nothing beyond the Horn of Western Africa. And on the maps, because there's space, you've got to put something. So they would put sea monsters. They would write, here there be dragons. People were saying, well, you don't want to go there anyway. Don't go there. That's where the sea creatures are. Now, how many people at sea took that seriously or not, is of course a good question. Maybe just wanted to make a little map with a little bit of art, but still. So what we're seeing here are folks that are going to be stepping off. Symbolically stepping off to absolutely uncharted water. In again, ships that are getting better, a bit more seaworthy. They're rigging the sails differently than they had rigged them, say, in the Mediterranean. You're out in the ocean now, not in the sea. Although the Mediterranean can be a violent sea, storm-driven sea. Some of this again comes from the Arabs in terms of the lateen sails and those kinds of things. A little better, improved compasses. They're a little more solid and they're larger and just several things going on there. And then there's this device that's been created called the astrolabe. Now, this is more than I can ever really figure out from what I've read. It's a 2-ring device. They're different sizes, but you know they can be so big. And basically, it's degrees marked off on one ring within another ring. What it really does is, through complicated math, is it gives you your line of latitude. Prior to this, and of course this stays the case too, you'd have to shoot the sun, you know, that kind of stuff, and cheat, you know, amateurish kind of sextants and stuff. They didn't have sextants, but you know, the Arabs could use strings and cards and shoot the sun, and then they could kind of get their latitude and position, sort of. This is a much more accurate device. Now that gives you a line of latitude position. It doesn't give you, latitude means north south. It doesn't give you your longitude. Longitude we can't figure out because you need a chronometer to do that, you know, time, things like that. We won't do that until 1700s. And then even if you had a clock, well, how would you function that on a ship? It's moving all the time. You know, even a pendulum clock wouldn't function very well. So anyway, they figure some of these things out, but there's still a lot that isn't known. Now, Portuguese are really going to be the guys to watch here until again we get to Columbus. What we've got is the son, one of the sons of the king of Portugal, Henry. He's down the line. He knows he's probably never going to inherit the throne. He's got too many brothers in front of him. So he's got to do something. You know. And he is fascinated with the sea and ships and exploration and maps and things like that. And he's also interested in spreading the gospel. He wants to extend the position, the geographic position of the Catholic Church. He wants to move down into Africa. Yes, for the riches and the ivory and whatever else is there, but also to spread, to impact Islam. He wants to push Islam back. The same ways that Columbus will want to push against Islam. Henry, we call him Henry the Navigator. He wasn't a navigator, that's what we call him. Henry wants to do the same kind of thing. He's functioning in this way out of Africa. You'll see in the last full paragraph, left-hand column, in 1415, Portuguese army captured the Muslim port of Ceuta. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. 15 miles south of Gibraltar, so we're all here in northern Africa. He wants to go down the coast and capture these places, push out Islam if it's there, establish Christianity if it's not, that kind of thing. And of course, gain the riches at the same time. Now to do that, you've got to send guys out in ships to explore. Because again, you get past the Horn, they just don't know much yet. So for several years, he's going to operate with what we usually call a navigation school off the southwest corner of Portugal. It's not a school like we think of. It's more of a clearinghouse for information. Anybody who comes back from a voyage would then report in and say, well, here's where we went. Here's what we found. Here's the map we drew. So there's a lot of maps, and there's a collection of maps and things like that. And the Portuguese are pretty good about this kind of thing. They discovered the Azores, you see over in the right-hand column, the Azores and the Canary Islands and all this out in the Atlantic, the eastern portion of the Atlantic. So they're stepping off out into the ocean by hundreds of miles to accomplish these things. Now we're going to see guys that are going down the coast. In 1487, we're going to have a guy named Bartolomeo, that's the anglicized version of it, Diaz, who's going to sail down the coast with basically instructions to go as far as you can. Now the orange line here is Diaz. Okay? Diaz will pretty much kind of hop, skip, and jump along the coast. He never gets very far away. He doesn't know where he is, for one thing. You get down here kind of past the Horn, kind of in this armpit here of Africa. It's all new ground. He's staying pretty close to the coast. Of course, again, he wants to make contact and see what's there and who's there and are the Islamists there and those kind of things. He hits some storms down here, some rough stuff. Almost loses his ships completely, but they come blasted out through the storm and reach the southern tip of Africa. So they have reached the bottom of Africa. I mean, for all people knew prior to this, Africa just went on forever. Now you've hit the southern tip of it. And he gets down there, and he wants to keep going. His instructions are, go as far as you can. And his crew says, hold on. Wait a minute, Bart, let's think about this just a sec. They're done. They've gone through some bad water, bad storms, it's been rough. They're petrified by after this. These guys are saying, we need to go back. Let's go back. And they fuss for a bit, and basically the argument that's compelling is, look, if we don't go back, what if we don't make it otherwise? What if we keep going and something happens? Nobody's going to know what we've accomplished here. Okay, all right, fine. So he goes back. Reports in. He reaches the subject of the bathroom. He names this piece of territory here, the Cape of Good Hope. Now, what do they do this for? Well, we've said Islam and pushing Islam back and extending out the church. Ultimately, one of the main goals here is to get to the east. We talked about Columbus wanting to sail out west to get to the east. Well, what? What's in the east? Spices. There's spices, and there's jewels, and there's ivories, and there's deep woods, and there's silks. There's all kinds of good stuff. But there's spices. We are so accustomed to eating good food. It never dawns on us we'd have to eat otherwise. You don't like the taste of food? What do you do to it? We're so used to spices in our food. Even if you're a person who says, oh, I don't like spicy food. Well, yeah, you do. Because we all put salt, or it's there. We don't put salt on our food. We eat enough food. It's just salted automatically. We probably have in our cabinet the same container of salt we've had in there for about a decade. We just don't salt our food. We're so accustomed to spices, we don't even give it a thought. We walk into a restaurant, we go downstairs to every table down here in the cafeteria, and there's 2 spices on that table. And we don't even think about it. Salt and pepper. Now, salt's about everywhere. Pepper's no story. Pepper is so available to us, we don't give it a thought. But these people are willing to risk their lives for pepper. I'm going to tell you how that pans out in just a second. Well, because again, their food it's not only tastes bad, it spoils fast. There's no way to refrigerate here. There's no way to preserve food. Food comes to your medieval table half rancid half the time. So you want an incentive? Just make it taste better. Just make it taste good. That's what spices are about. And again, it doesn't have to be anything really exotic. Just pepper. Again, I'll say something like that. Well, Diaz does his thing, goes back. Diaz, by the way, will sail again. This is in 1497, 98, 87, 88. He'll sail again later. He will, by the way, die on a voyage in 1500. That voyage was he wasn't captaining the ship. He was captaining one ship. He wasn't in charge of that voyage, the Rolla. But on that voyage, the voyage in 1500 that Diaz dies on, that voyage will actually sail, a fleet will sail from Portugal, will sail to Brazil purposely and land and then shoot off to the east. And what that says is they know this, they're already here. Before they get to the Far East, they're already here. We know about this chunk of property. Now that's initially for him, again, 1487. He dies in 1500. He dies at the Cape of Good Hope, by the way. The ship goes down. Again, why would you want to do this? Here's your risk of your life. And even a guy like Diaz, that's a name we know. Again, think about all the guys who sailed, we don't know. Because they sailed and they never came back. There's a whole lot more of those guys than there are these guys. But even Diaz will die at sea. Now, you would think that the Portuguese would follow this up pretty quickly. It's 1487. We don't really get a good solid follow-up on this for 10 years. 1497. Now, between 1487 and 1497, what's happened? Columbus, right in the middle, 1492. He's doing his thing. Whether that's an exact incentive to the Portuguese or not is a good question, I don't know. But by 97, there's going to be another guy they send out. That's still Da Gama. Da Gama, of course, is going to follow the route for Diaz. Half of this has already been done for him. He knows where he's going. He knows how to get there. He knows where the southern tip is. They know the line of latitude. So that's pretty much a piece of cake. In fact, what you're seeing here in the green line, this is Diaz. Now, he doesn't land in Brazil, but he's going far enough to where he's closer to Brazil than he is to Africa. Remember, Diaz is just on the hug of the coast initially, in his first voyage. Now they're getting to where they command this part of the water. They know exactly where they are. They know where the sea land. They know where the currents run, things like that. That's part of why they're doing what they're doing here is they're hitting the current. So off he goes. And Da Gama will reach not only the southern tip, he will then, now this becomes uncharted ground, right? Then he's going to hop, skip, and jump here like Diaz did 10 years earlier, because now he's in new territory. And he's finding this and that, meeting these folks and those folks, and trading, those kinds of things. Yeah.
When did they chart the paths of the sea, the currents?
But they're beginning to do that already.
Now, I know you just said that he knew where they were.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, yeah, he's doing his thing by 97. There's been other guys that have been doing similar kinds of things at the same time. They're not sailing off from here, but they're sailing in the South Atlantic. And there's also, remember, 92, the Spanish are doing their thing after 92 with Columbus, and they're reaching South America. So there's a lot of different things going on here simultaneously.
Where does Magellan fit in all this?
Magellan's going to be 1520s. Oh, 1540s. So he's another half century away from Columbus. Yep. Look, a guy like, when you talk about, you said Magellan?
Yeah.
Magellan, of course, would be the first to circumnavigate the planet.
Yeah.
Well, if you put the total mileage that these guys are putting in, they're doing the equivalent in distance. They're just not going around the planet. So, now, Da Gama gets not only to the southern tip, but then up the coast of Africa, and then all the way here to Calcutta. He reaches India, which is the end game. That's a spice center. Once Da Gama gets to Calcutta, he's going to pick up spices and he's going to pick them up by the boatload, literally. Now, the incentives, you can be brave, you can be adventurous, you can want to see what's on the other side, you can do this to push the Muslims back and extend Christianity, but you can also bring spices from the ancient, the Orient. And he does. He will bring back, when he returns, he will bring back a load of this is not on the page, but 1,900 metric tons of pepper. He's got some cinnamon too, but most all this is 1,900 metric tons of pepper. And he's introducing this into a part of the world that hardly knows pepper, that can't afford pepper. When he lands back in Lisbon, he will dump 1,900 metric tons of pepper on Lisbon. The street value of pepper will drop by 90%. Everybody can afford pepper on their table. Thank you, Vesco. Now, what we're not saying yet is, did he make any money doing this? Yeah. If you have an investment that brings you 6% annually, would you be satisfied with that? The way interest rates have been running the last several years, you get 6%, knock yourself out. He doesn't make 6%. He doesn't make 60%. He doesn't make 600%. He makes 6,000% profit on 1,900 metric tons of pepper. One trip, one load, he can retire. He's in the money. He makes a fortune off this. You want an incentive? That's an incentive. Now, I'm not pushing other things back. I'm just saying that's a huge incentive. This is supply and demand. This is market driven. Does he stop there? No. He keeps doing these kinds of things. He will have other voyages. He will eventually be made Viceroy of India. He will die in India of malaria in 1524. Even the guys who succeed die. S dies, and C, he dies because he's made it to the wrong part of the world. I've only got a few minutes left here. I want to do a little bit of Columbus. Anything about any of that you want to ask? Yeah.
I just wondered how many men are on these ships.
Dozens. Dozens. We talk about Columbus, there's about 90 on the 3 ships. Some of these voyages involve a dozen plus ships. Think the Gama, when he sails, it was one of his last times to sail, 17 ships, 25 ships, he did several ships. When you go in convoy, things will work out a little bit better for you, at least if somebody there.
One of the things Helen and I got to do when we were in Portugal was to go to the school,
Yeah.
navigation school
Yeah.
at that point. And there was.
Cyprus, is that what it is?
Yeah, and there was a huge diameter circle there that was probably long, diameter bigger than a football field with all the degrees.
Yeah.
And they're training these navigators and such, and they had things there for the winds and all these kinds
Yeah.
of things. It was an amazing place.
Yeah, yeah, winds, currents, all, and they're trying to chart all these kinds of things. Not just where you find land, but how do you get there? How'd you get there? Bob, well,
I don't want to interrupt but read about these guys, they come from Spain and they discover a new country to them. Okay, you belong to Spain. What arrogance.
it is arrogant, but when you have steel and cannon and horses and germs, you can do whatever you want. It is simply might, whether it makes right or not, we can fuss about it, but you can, you do. Why do they do what they do? Because they can, that's why.
Example, the United States.
Well, I wish we had more time for that, but we don't. Questions? Okay.
Is there any record that the seamen got to share in any of his wealth?
Yeah, this has to trickle down to it. How much, none of these sailors get rich, you know. But some of them who become captains become sought after and they can make some fast money. That's one thing that Columbus will do. He signs on a guy that was very well known, good sea captain, Mark Pinzon. And he had trouble actually getting recruits before the Pinzon brothers, had 2 brothers that signed on. Once they signed on, they're well known. So, well, the Pinzons are going, then I'll go, you know. So the average sailor is not.
Approximately how long did it take you to sail all the way to have that back in?
Well, this is almost 2 years. He begins in '97, but it comes back in '98. But it's most of 2 years. This is not something you do overnight. This is where you kiss your wife goodbye and say, "I'll be back sometime."
Did Spain or any other country cut in on this?
Well, others are going to follow up. Yeah, Spain large has been the next one to follow up and follow these kinds of routes. But Spain is concentrating so much on the New World. This is so secondary to Spain. It could care less. And we'll see some of that here. We talked about Columbus. I'm going to be chopped off here pretty quickly. Let's look a little bit at Columbus. Again, I don't want to just cover the same ground that Terry covered. I did want to say a few things beyond what you already know and what he kind of filled in the other day. You all know Columbus has a hard time finding a sponsor. But this business of what he is going to be doing, and again, not so much of that has been described by Terry, he's a guy born to the sea. I mean, he's meant to be at sea. He's born in Genoa. His father's a trader, which means that he's on boats all the time. He grows up doing this stuff. He goes on trips with his dad. He learns how to navigate. I think he's a guy who's a natural-born navigator anyway. Columbus has a skill that is a skill of dead reckoning. Dead reckoning means that you can do this on land or at sea. It's maybe 1 out of 100,000 people actually have it. You can be at sea, and you can, with very limited technology, there's nothing to tell you. I mean, today, they've got plenty of devices that tell you where you are and how fast you're going and everything else. But for these kinds of guys, he can be at sea, look off into the distance, judge his distance, judge how far he's coming today, judge the direction he's going, there's probably a sense of direction, and be right. When I talk about this in my classes, I usually mention the Lewis and Clark expedition. I'll say William Clark, who made the map of the Lewis and Clark expedition, had the capacity for dead reckoning. He could be at a bend in a river, look up the river to the next bend up, and estimate his distance and get it 99% right almost every time. And you can't do that, neither can I. He doesn't survey his map. He does it by dead reckoning. And he is only, his map of the river, the Missouri River, is only going to be off by about 40 miles total. That's several thousand. So we can't do that. So that's a skill that Columbus has.
Did they use the stars?
They use the stars, but you're going to be sailing at night to use the stars. At daytime, it's a whole other thing. And that's part of the problem here, is how do we chart where we are by day? But Columbus can do that. In fact, Columbus, I'm kind of moving fast here for the sake of our time. Let me talk about him just a little bit more when he's younger. He goes off on trading expeditions with his dad. He does this himself when he's older. So he's on sea, he's on the Mediterranean, he's going to England, he's going to Iceland, he's going to Ireland. He's just all over the place. He at one point will be involved in a war like Marco Polo was, one of these inter-Italian city-state, trading city-state wars. He winds up being his ship blasted off the coast of Spain. He's just in his 20s at that time. He winds up in the water, hanging onto an oar, miles from shore. He could have easily died there. What if he had? I don't even know. The world would turn differently. You know that. He manages to swim to shore. He winds up in Lisbon. He stays put. He actually goes into business with his brother, who was a map maker. So they did map stuff. And he's developing this concept of sailing west to get to the east. Now, Terry mentioned something very important the other day. And that was up when he was in Ireland or Iceland, where it was. A couple of bodies float up on shore. The Asians, he sees those guys. Now, who are those guys? It's a man and woman. Well, probably Eskimos, or Inuits, we would say. Probably. They're not from Western Hemisphere, but I mean, their ancestors may have been at one point. But yes, they look Asian, but probably going to be Eskimos. But that plants a seed for him. And so he develops this idea about sailing west to get to the east. What's the big problem with his theory? The distance. This is his problem repeatedly. He goes to multiple courts. He goes to different Italian trading cities. They're not interested. He goes to Francis I, France, not interested. He goes to Henry VII in England, not interested. The Portuguese are already doing their thing. Stay out of our way. They want something the same. Because every time he goes to a court and does what he does, he's saying, it's only this far. Look, they understood line of latitude. We're not going to see it on this map. But he actually theorized, if I just sail straight out, unaware of this, if I keep doing this, I'm going to land in Japan. If you look at a map that includes Japan, you'll see that Japan and Spain are pretty much on the same line of latitude. It's a straight shot as far as he's concerned. As far as he's concerned, it's maybe 3,000 doable miles across, and then boom, we hit Japan. Well, no, you're not. Because his distances are off. From there to Japan is more like 12,000. He's 9,000 miles off. And on a planet that has a circumference of 25,000, that's not a tiny number. So that's the problem. And there's other issues too, but to go to a court and make this presentation, it's, well, thanks for coming. Don't call us, we'll call you. And as soon as he's out of the room, the king can return to his learned men. Does he know what he's talking about? You got something going on here? Well, he's got, that's not the right idea. His planet's too small. This isn't about flat earth things. This isn't the issue. This is about people understanding it's bigger than he thinks, so he can't get anybody to buy. He gets Ferdinand Isabella to buy because, as we said the other day, this is a new kingdom. This is 1487. Their kingdom is established. 1492 is when Columbus said. They're a new kid on the block. Something to prove. What if he's right? That's Ferdinand, or Isabella's view. What if he's right? What if he's right? It won't cost us that much. So they sponsor him going across the Atlantic. But you know most of the story beyond that. Again, the dead reckoning works wonderfully for him. He actually will keep, he keeps 2 logs from day one. He will keep 1 log that's the accurate log. He knows how far he's gone. He's pretty close on. And he gets a little worried because his distances aren't working haven't. He keeps another log for anybody else who asks to see. When they get going far enough and they get out long enough, he's going to have guys say, oh, okay, how come we're not finding it? How come we're not there yet? Well, we haven't come that far yet. We haven't? No! See? Oh, well, I thought, no, it's an easy mistake to make, so don't worry about it. He's got another log where it's, she lives. And of course, you know most of the rest of the story. So I just don't have time for all that stuff. We'll stop with that. Any questions you want to ask before I stuff like that? I got one more hour.
One thing that's really interesting about water, people never think about this. Even up here at Lake McConaughey, it's about 5 miles across at the widest point. And from one shore to the next, it's 14 inches lower because of the curvature of the river.
Yeah.
And that's just, when you think of sailing on a curve.
Yeah. That's why any of these sailors, I mean, they knew. I mean, they used to use the curvature and horizon lines and ships they can see at the distance and they can't see it. Well, it's there. They know it. They just lost it on the horizon. So it's not about flat earth. All right. Yes, Professor.
That's kind of my question, Tim. How was it that he didn't gravitate more of the northern route?
Well, part of it is because he's hitting the islands that they know of already. He's hitting the Azores and the Canaries. The position of those takes him south of Spain. Then what will happen is, as he heads across the Atlantic, he actually catches a current that always goes to the west. Yeah.
Plus, the theory at the time was gold was found closer to the equator. Because of alchemy, the hotter the weather, the more gold you're going to find. So for the south, you go, the more like.
Good to know, right? Now here's, by the way, the other part that's kind of tricky is that when they hit this current that always went to the west, what did the question become?
How do you get back?
How do you get back? Yeah. If we're always going this direction, and actually, do you know the answer? He's a lucky duck on this, by the way. He hits the right current going this way. It's actually part of the big oval. So when they go to, they're going the right direction. When they come back, they hit the other side. So it's the big oval. The center of this is called the Sargasso Sea. It's where a lot of seaweed and stuff collects. Because it's just like a whirlpool, huge land whirlpool. So anyway, so that one. He gets lucky on some of these things. All right, we got to stop there. We'll see you in 15 minutes.